The Untold Story of Bob Marley's 12 Children. Bob Marley, the Legend and the Father. Bob Marley. To the world, his name is synonymous with reggae, Rastafarian faith, and the voice of rebellion turned into song. From the streets of Kingston to sold-out stadiums across the globe, he became a cultural prophet, a man whose music spoke of justice, freedom, and the dream of one love. But behind the legend was a father, a man whose greatest legacy was not only the songs he left behind, but the family he built. Born in 1945 in 9 Mile, Jamaica, Robert Nesta Marley was raised by a single mother after his father, a white naval officer, abandoned them. His early life was shaped by poverty, faith, and music. As a teenager, he made a vow to himself that music would be his escape and his weapon. By the 1970s, Bob Marley had become a global symbol of peace and resistance, but his private life was just as full, just as complex. Because Bob Marley was not just the father of a movement, he was the father of 12 children. Some were born within his marriage to Rita Marley, others from relationships that spoke to the complicated, whirlwind nature of his life. Some children embraced the Marley name and took reggae to new heights. Others pursued sports, fashion, or business. A few chose quiet lives away from the spotlight. Together, they formed a family tree as diverse as the man who planted it. And then there was his youngest, Makeda Janesta Marley, born in May 1981, just 11 days after Bob's untimely death. She would never know her father in life, but she would grow up carrying his blood, his name, and the weight of his legacy. This is their story, the untold story of Bob Marley's 12 children, a story of triumph and tragedy, of rhythm and resilience, of a family forever tied to the heartbeat of reggae. And so we begin where it all started, with Sharon, the daughter Bob chose to call his own. Sharon Marley. The story begins not with Bob's biological child, but with Sharon, born in 1964 to Rita Anderson before she married Bob. When Bob and Rita wed in 1966, he legally adopted Sharon as his own. Growing up in the Marley household, Sharon was surrounded by rhythm and rebellion. She became one of the original members of the Melody Makers, a group formed with her younger siblings Cedella, Ziggy, and Stephen. Together, they carried forward Bob's vision, blending reggae with new sounds for a new generation. Beyond music, Sharon took a quieter path. She became deeply involved in education, serving as an administrator for the Ghetto Youths United Foundation. Her life became less about the stage and more about nurturing the Marley legacy from behind the scenes. Yet Sharon always carried Bob's message, that love and resilience can change the world. But that was just the beginning of the Marley children's story. Cedella Marley. Next came Cedella, born in 1967 to Bob and Rita. Named after Bob's mother, Cedella was a child of destiny. From the moment she could walk, she was steeped in music and culture. Like Sharon, Cedella joined the Melody Makers, where she proved herself as more than just Bob's daughter. With her strong vocals and charismatic presence, she helped the group achieve international success, even winning 3 Grammy Awards. But Cedella's story stretched beyond the music. She became a designer, launching her own clothing line inspired by her Jamaican roots. She even collaborated with Puma to design the Jamaican Olympic team's uniforms, bringing reggae-inspired style to the global stage. Today, Cedella continues to champion her father's legacy, running Tough Gong International, the family's music label, and serving as a cultural ambassador for Jamaica. But behind Cedella's polished success, one question lingered. Could the Marley children ever escape the weight of Bob's shadow? David Ziggy Marley? The answer seemed clear when Cedella's younger brother David, better known as Ziggy, took the stage. Born in 1968, Ziggy was Bob's first biological son with Rita, and for many fans, the heir to the reggae throne. As the frontman of Ziggy Marley and the Melody Makers, Ziggy carried his father's torch with both pride and pressure. His music captured the same themes of unity and justice, but with his own twist, blending reggae with pop and rock influences. Over the decades, Ziggy built a solo career that earned him 8 Grammy Awards and international respect, but he was never content to simply ride his father's name. Ziggy became an activist in his own right, advocating for environmental causes, children's rights, and healthy living. And yet, Ziggy has always admitted that being Bob's son was both a gift and a burden. The world didn't just see him as a musician, they expected him to be the second coming of Bob Marley. Stephen Marley. Then came Stephen, born in 1972, perhaps the Marley child who most inherited Bob's raw musical genius. While Ziggy fronted the melody makers, Stephen often stayed in the background, writing, producing, and shaping the group's sound. But make no mistake, Stephen was no less a star. His solo albums, including Mind Control, earned him multiple Grammys and cemented his reputation as one of reggae's most authentic modern voices. Known for his smooth vocals and his uncanny resemblance to Bob, Stephen often brought fans to tears during live performances, as if the legend himself were back on stage. Stephen also took on the role of mentor, guiding his younger siblings, especially Damien, as they forged their own careers. If Ziggy was the face of the next Marley generation, Stephen was its architect. But Bob's legacy wasn't just about chart-topping albums, it was about family, and the Marley family was about to grow even larger. Robert Robbie Marley. Born in 1972, the same year as Stephen, Robert Robbie Marley lived a life very different from his more famous siblings. While Ziggy and Stephen pursued music, Robbie avoided the limelight. He didn't seek fame, didn't chase the stage, and rarely granted interviews. Instead, he pursued a quieter life, often described as the Mystery Marley. Robbie's path reminds us that not every child of a legend wants to live in the glow of the spotlight. For Robbie, Bob was not just an icon, he was a father, and his way of honoring that memory was through privacy and independence. Rohan Marley. Rohan, born in 1972 as well, was the son of Bob and Janet Hunt. Unlike his brothers, Rohan's path led him to the world of sports. He played college football at the University of Miami, where he was teammates with future NFL legends like Ray Lewis. After his football career, Rohan reinvented himself as an entrepreneur. He founded Marley Coffee, a sustainable coffee farming business inspired by his father's love for the land. The brand grew into an international success, combining business with Bob's values of community and justice. Rohan also gained public attention for his relationship with musician Lauryn Hill. Together, they had 5 children, intertwining 2 powerful musical legacies. But Rohan's story also carried personal struggles, from business challenges to public controversies. Still, like his father, he always bounced back, guided by resilience and a restless spirit. Karen Marley. Born in 1973 in England to Bob and Janet Bowen, Karen Marley grew up far from Jamaica's sunny shores. Raised mostly in England, Karen's life was quieter. Less touched by the chaos of the Marley name, she eventually moved into the world of fashion and design, co-founding the By Karen Marley brand, which reflected her heritage and creativity. Though not a household name like Ziggy or Damien, Karen's work represented another branch of the Marley tree, one rooted in artistry beyond music. Stephanie Marley. Stephanie's story is more complicated. Born in 1974 to Rita Marley during her marriage with Bob, Stephanie's biological father is often said to be another man. But Bob accepted her as his own, raising her within the Marley family. Stephanie's journey was not about fame. Instead, she became deeply involved in managing the Marley businesses, especially Tough Gong International and the Marley Resort and Spa in the Bahamas. Her life illustrates a different truth, that family is not always about bloodlines, but about love and responsibility. Bob's acceptance of Stephanie ensured she was always a Marley, no matter the circumstances of her birth. Julian Marley. Born in 1975 to Bob and Lucy Pounder in London, Julian inherited his father's musical gifts. A multi-instrumentalist, Julian grew up bouncing between England and Jamaica, always carrying Bob's spirit with him. His music blended reggae with elements of jazz and world sounds, and he earned a Grammy nomination for his album Awake. But what set Julian apart was his devotion to Rastafarian spirituality. For him, music was not just a career. It was a form of worship. Even today, Julian continues to spread messages of unity and faith, proving that the Marley flame burns brightly in every corner of the family. Ky-Mani Marley. In 1976, Bob welcomed another son, Ky-Mani, with Anita Belnavis, a Jamaican table tennis champion. Unlike some of his siblings, Ky-Mani grew up in relative obscurity, raised in Miami, but his musical journey eventually brought him back to the Marley legacy. His sound was unique, blending reggae with hip-hop, dancehall, and R&B. Albums like Many More Roads showed that Ky-Mani was not afraid to innovate, even if it meant stepping outside traditional reggae boundaries. Ky-Mani also dabbled in acting, starring in Jamaican films like Shadas. His story shows that the Marley children didn't just inherit Bob's rhythm, they inherited his fearlessness to break barriers. Damian Jr. Gong Marley. And finally, the youngest, Damian Marley, born in 1978 to Bob and Cindy Breakspear, Miss World, 1976. Damian was just 2 years old when his father passed away, yet he would grow into one of Bob's most powerful heirs. Known as Junior Gong, Damian exploded onto the music scene with his album Welcome to Jamrock, which won 2 Grammy Awards and became a global anthem. His lyrics were raw, political, and deeply conscious, echoing Bob's call for justice in a new millennium. Damian collaborated with artists like Nas, Jay-Z, and Skrillex, proving that reggae could fuse with hip-hop and electronic music without losing its soul. Today, Damian is often seen as the Marley child who most successfully bridged the gap between Bob's legacy and modern music. For many fans, he is the living embodiment of the Marley flame. Makita Janesta Marley. The final chapter of Bob Marley's family story belongs to a child he never had the chance to meet. Makita Janesta Marley was born on May 30th, 1981, just 11 days after Bob's passing. Her mother, Yvette Crichton, gave birth to her in Miami, Florida, at a time when the world was still mourning the reggae prophet. For Makita, life began in the shadow of absence. She grew up without ever hearing her father's voice in person, without ever feeling the warmth of his hand or the strength of his embrace. And yet, everywhere she turned, his presence was undeniable. From the music that flowed through every speaker to the Marley name etched into history, Makita inherited a legacy that was as heavy as it was inspiring. Unlike her older siblings who had years of memories with Bob, Makita's connection was built entirely on stories, photographs, and the weight of a surname that carried global recognition. She pursued education, became a mother herself, and chose a life far from the fame and spotlight that often followed her siblings. At times, her path was not easy. Makita faced personal struggles, including brushes with financial hardship and public scrutiny. And yet, her existence symbolizes something profound, that Bob Marley's story did not end with his death. His music, his children, and his message carried forward into new generations. Makita, the daughter born into both tragedy and hope, represents the unbroken continuation of the Marley line. Her life is a reminder that Bob's influence was so powerful it reached beyond his own lifetime. Even in death, he was still creating life, still shaping the future through a child he never met, but who would forever carry his name. The legacy lives on. When Bob Marley died in 1981 at just 36 years old, he left behind more than songs. He left a family, vast, diverse, complicated, and deeply united by love for the man who raised them. From Ziggy's Grammys to Damian's global hits, from Sadella's fashion empire to Rohan's coffee farms, the Marley children have carried their father's message into every corner of the world. Yet, their stories are not without struggle. They have wrestled with the pressure of his name, the pain of his absence, and the constant comparisons to a legend who could never truly be replaced. And still, through it all, one truth remains. Bob Marley's greatest legacy was not just his music. It was his children, 12 lives bound together by blood, by love, and by the everlasting rhythm of reggae. The untold story of Bob Marley's 12 children is not a tale of perfection. It is a story of resilience, a story of identity, and above all, a story of love. So the next time you hear Bob Marley's voice singing One Love, remember that his message was never just for the world. it was also for them, his family, and today that family continues to keep his dream alive. Bob Marley once said, "The greatness of a man is not in how much wealth he acquires, but in his integrity and his ability to affect those around him positively." His children prove that greatness lives on in many forms: music, fashion, sports, business. Every one of them carries a piece of Bob's spirit into the future. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more untold stories of legendary families. And tell us in the comments, which celebrity family should we cover next?